Go ahead and get started with the pre-commission agenda. I don't have a president's report tonight. Are there any general housekeeping items or discussion of the agenda?
Madam President?
Commissioner Pickering.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say thank you to the team for organizing the 16th in Washington dedication. Thought it was really well done, and thank you for getting great partners there, Boise Police Department folks, city folks, Jaden's family, obviously, and thanks to the commissioners that attended. I thought it was really meaningful and meant a lot to the family.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for saying that. Any other items? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to turn it over to Justin for the director's report tonight.
Well, good evening, commissioners. Great to be here tonight. Always good to see you. You get the B team. You know, the director's out in Greece right now, so we're here backing up. We'll do the best we can tonight to hold things together. Few things I wanted to mention as part of the report tonight. Tomorrow is our Neighborhoods in the Know. Shandy's team has done a great job organizing this. I'm not sure how many RSVPs we have, but about 15. These are neighborhood leaders, HOA presidents and things like that that come and participate. 5:30 to 8 p.m. We'll be over at the new Traffic Operations Center, which is exciting. We'll be talking budget, updates on other hot topics, and it'll be a really good event. Several ACHD staff people will be there to answer questions, and these are successful.
Madam President?
Commissioner Pickering.
Yeah, thanks, Justin, for the flag that'll be at our TOC. Is there a specific, like, is it gonna be really clear from when you enter TOC where folks are gonna go?
Right, yeah. So when you walk in, you have the main lobby. It's going to be that conference room, the large conference room right off the side of the main lobby, really clear and easily accessible. We'll have staff there guiding people and everything. So yeah.
Thank you.
We'll be ready to go. Also, and there is a resolution today on the regular agenda. ACHD just wants to recognize the 35 years of the Americans with Disabilities Act. As you're well aware, in transportation, this is one of the key compliance features that we talk about and look at and design for. I can say without hesitation that ACHD is a nationwide leader in this area. Those of you who travel around, and I do quite a bit, and for some reason I always pay attention to what's going on with transportation. We do a good job here. No agency is perfect, and I wouldn't claim we are, but our dedication and resource allocation to this area is significant, and proud to be part of an agency that does the type of job that we do. So more to come on that a little bit later. Commissioner Pickering, your history of stealing the thunder here, it's all good, all good. Yeah, thanks to all who came to this event. Staff was glad to participate in this commemoration, and it was really nice to see the improvements. You could see them working as we were standing there. So thanks to all who participated, and thanks for your kind words, Commissioner. Just wanted to provide a little bit of progress on chip seal. We're at 227 lane miles chipped. Our goal for this year is a little over 300. We're getting close. Chip does not mean complete. That means the chips go down. After that, there's a lot of sweeping, another fog seal, and then the striping that occurs. And it's really important for all of us to remember that. But we kind of track the progress in this way. So it's been really a successful year. I was out with the team last week with Tom Oddie and Lloyd Carnegie, our maintenance manager, handing out ice cream, talking to the team. There's been some challenges this year. The weather's been relatively cooperative. The traffic and the citizens of Ada County have struggled on occasion to follow the rules of the road out there associated with our chip seal program, but fortunately, people have been safe, and everyone's moving forward on that.
Do you have a comment?
Yeah, question.
Yeah, sure,
I heard there was a problem a week or so ago out in Eagle. How'd that work out?
Yeah, we've had some incidents. One incident specifically where the police had to be called, and there was actually an arrest associated with the activity of the individual. So
Good.
But we do that if we have to, and sometimes we have to if they're just unwilling to cooperate with the program of chip seal. So coming up, I mentioned most of these things. We do have the Hands Around the Capitol coming up on the 2nd of August, which is an ADA related event. CUNA Days Parade, Stop on Red Week begins also in August. Then we have some tours of the TOC, and we are prepping for our budget hearing. Very important for you as commissioners every year to consider and adopt the ACHD budget. So we're working forward on all those issues. I'm going to hand the remainder of my time, unless there's questions, over to Sean Kelly. We wanted to talk about a few things on the ADA front. We thought this was a good day to do that, provide some updates on some new devices that we're going to be employing in this upcoming construction season.
Mr. Nelson.
Oh, yeah, Justin, on your last slide, I don't think that's the right date.
You are
for-
correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right.
I apologize. I have the
Nope.
wrong date on there. I believe it is Saturday.
That's Friday.
It's Friday.
Friday.
Friday, and Sean will be there
On which one?
representing
Hands
ACHD
around the
at
Capitol.
Hands Around the Capitol.
Got it. Sorry about that, Commissioner.
No,
So
it's-
just clarification, Hands Around the
My
Capitol
fault.
is.
So sorry.
What day exactly?
Friday.
Got it. Friday, the 25th of August.
The anniversary.
No, July.
Okay, so this is even getting worse. Now I'm saying the wrong thing. This Friday, July 25th, Hands Around the Capitol, and we'll have a presence there. Is that correct, Sean? Yeah, we'll have a presence there. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Sean, and maybe he can get that date right again, so we'll have it all clear for the record.
Madam President,
Yeah, Commissioner McKinney.
Justin, before you sit down, can I ask a question on the consent agenda?
Sure.
Today, item number 3, this paver purchase. Is this to replace the wide format paver that we decided to sell a couple weeks ago?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, yes.
Okay.
And you'll note that the dollar amount is actually a little lower than we told you before. So we sold that paver for $250 and change, Joe, and we're getting this one for $300. And that $300 includes, is it a 6-year warranty? 4-year warranty. So we're coming in, I think, really good on this deal.
Okay,
So
good.
absolutely,
Great, thank you.
no problem. So I'll hand it over to Sean.
Thanks, Justin.
Good evening, Commission, Madam President. I wanted to just start off by saying it is Friday, the 25th. I'm sorry. Sean Kelly, Accessibility and Mobility Specialist for the Highway District. We want to talk about these devices that are sitting over here. We're a little show and tell tonight. Something that we've been working on since November, proximity actuated audible detour devices. And this is going to be talking about our rollout plan and what we developed and how we're trying to get these out there in the field. So how we got here is we have a ProReg requirement. So under the signs section, it's a shall condition. We absolutely have to put these out there anytime that there is a sign in an audible, it has to be in an audible format or non-visual. So you can use channelizers, but the audible devices are absolutely necessary through ProWag. They say you have to do it. They don't tell you a good way to do it. They just say you have to do it. So we came up with our own rollout plan and our own team to do that. It's reinforced in MUTCD. It's a should condition, but it does talk about being a best practice and the best way to provide that information to blind and low vision individuals. So again, we developed our ACHD rollout plan starting in November. We procured a couple of these devices. So we got 2 of each of these devices and have been testing them rigorously since. So thank you to the companies that provided those to us at no cost. And our target launch for this was fiscal year 2026. We wanted to get these out specifically into capital projects so that we can start testing how this actually is going to work, because these are different. So this draft rollout plan is now a historical document, and I'm kind of proud of that. We don't have any models to go off of how to do this and how to implement. So we did this ourselves back with Dave Rader when he was still here. We started in November. We had a rollout plan, and then we got the devices. December 12th and the 13th, we had an event here and at Orchard, when we were still at Orchard, had staff come through, test these devices, give us their feedback, see what they liked about them, see how they worked, how they interact with them. And then we also took them to our Idaho Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired out there on 4th and Washington, and that was in January. That was probably, that was the real kickoff, because that was where we got the most of our first blush information from the users and the demographic that this serves. So a lot of great feedback came from that event. We have an ACHD kickoff team, interdepartmental, so everything from communications to safety engineering and 2 inspections. We have a lot of individuals that were on that team to both look at the feedback we were getting, help us make sure we were going in the right direction so that we can try to meet a rollout plan of August timeframe and get into fiscal year 2026. Right after that, in February, we had our ADA Traffic Control Summit, where we brought in traffic control companies into this room, briefed them, and told them this is coming. So that wouldn't be the first time they heard it, would be their bids in October of next year, or of this fiscal year. So we did talk about that. We took their feedback as well, because that's important. In March, we met with the ADA Advisory Committee, and they'd heard about this before, but this was where we gave them the big update of everything we'd learned up until this point. We had a need to draft messaging because there isn't messaging that makes sense. We had to find some old messaging out there. We had to make it our own, use components of what we learned from ICBPI, our own staff, really important things to the blind and low vision community, and create that draft messaging. We had a mock closure event, which we'll talk about on another slide, at Fifth and Washington, which we invited out the ICBVI students and faculty again, as well as members of the ADA Advisory Committee and a ton of staff. And so we'll talk about that, but that was another fundamental event of feedback, and getting it out in the open air and seeing how these things operate in traffic with a closure made all the difference. We got back together in May 6th, talked with the staff, said, what went well? What are we learning? How should we implement this? Are we in the right direction? And this is where we are now. We have drafted our final documents. We have draft spec. We have draft messaging format. We are here. We are at the end of July. We are meeting our August goal that we wanted to get to, and we are getting ready for our rollout for 2026. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the mock closure event, just briefly. Fifth and Washington, highly successful. We literally closed down a crosswalk. We had individuals who were blind or low vision interact with the devices, give us their feedback on the devices, navigate around the crosswalk to, cross the street to the other one. It gave them the messaging that we had drafted specifically for that corner. And then we got feedback on each device and what it was doing, how it sounded, which one they liked better, which we did inside of a conference room as well. But big difference putting these things inside and taking them outside with traffic. So we had a lot of great feedback on that day. A lot of participation from staff. We had seeing eye dogs out there, people in wheelchairs. So there was a lot of demographics that were able to give us some feedback. The key thing from that day, and the key thing that I walked away from, was I asked everyone before we broke off, if we went live, if ACHD went live tomorrow with what we have and what we know, would that work? Resounding yes. This is a quality of life benefit to this demographic, hands down. Nobody said anything otherwise. So we feel like we're in the right direction with our messaging. So status update and next steps, we're on schedule. We're here. This is where we are. We have on the 25th of July is the 35th anniversary event. The anniversary is actually on Saturday, but the Hands Around the Capitol event is at Cecil D. Andrus. That's going to be there. We have a booth we're sponsoring. I'll have these devices out there as well as a lot of other communications information to provide to people that come by. This is going to be just another way that we can show in open air and get some feedback. We're never going to stop getting feedback on these things. It's going to be a long time before we tune it in and get it right. But phase 1, we're ready to go with select capital projects. So we've got some that we've looked at, and that's something that we're pretty proud of. So, and I will stand for any questions.
Any questions? Commissioner
Madam
Pickering?
President, Sean, thank you for this great presentation. I've been wondering about what's been going on with this. This is great to see. I was curious if you're going to tell us a little bit more about which projects these will be at.
I can. So the first one that we're looking at right now is U-Stick 10 Mile to Linder, and that's coming up real quick.
Mhm.
And so it's something that we're going to get, and we literally just walked out of a meeting talking about this specific thing. And then I think we're also going to look at Linder State Highway 44 to Floating Feather as just our pilot, I don't say pilot, but our test projects to make sure we can dial these things in. There's a couple of good reasons I'll just share. Capital projects was where we wanted to go with our first attempts at putting these out there. They are controlled. They've got a project inspector. They're there for a long period of time. The feedback that we're going to get there is essential as opposed to getting them out there on a zones or a fiber or something else where we're gonna have to have them in the future. This is where we're gonna learn what we need to know to refine our messaging first, which is why we're going with those projects.
And then how are you, obviously you keep talking about messaging, but in terms of, I'm also curious about like the process,
Mhm.
right? And the coordination between, you know, the contractor, inspector, right? Just like making it actually all work in theory. So are you also going to be learning and evaluating how smoothly that kind of rolls out?
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, yes.
Okay.
The answer is simple. We're gonna be collecting that feedback, and this is a long-term process.
Mhm.
This isn't something that we're gonna get right off the bat. It's not something that's gonna be perfect. We're gonna have to fine tune. And what we're hopeful for is that this is going to become something that we can look at and look back in 6 months and say, how are we doing? And how much have we changed? And maybe there's other municipalities out there that haven't done this yet either,
Mhm.
and, talk to them.
Thanks for the clarification on why capital projects. I think that's really important for us to be clear about. Thanks, Madam President.
Any other questions?
Madam President?
Commissioner McKinney?
Yeah, Sean, just a couple of quick questions on these. So I assume then going forward, what will happen is that contracts that we go into with contractors building our projects, they'll be required to use these. And then we also on our projects, our maintenance projects and such, will be using them as well. Is that what I'm hearing?
Madam President, Commissioner, yes, that's exactly what will happen. We need to filter this through, and this is just our way of dialing in the best ways to do that before we get them out. When we start getting into things like doing fiber and putting these out there when we're doing safe sidewalks and things, it gets a little more messy. There's a lot of these things that would be out there. So getting it right on projects that we can watch and we can have for a long period of time is why we're doing it that way.
Okay. How many of these are we likely to need? How many is ACHD going to probably need to have in their inventory for use in maintenance projects and such?
Madam President, Commissioner, I think that would be a question for maybe Lloyd or somebody who could
Okay.
speak to that once we have an understanding of our draft messaging. Our draft messaging is really also trying to tell us where to put these, where
Okay.
they're going to be most essential. ProWag says one thing, we want to make sure we're meeting the intent of ProWag, but we also want to be smart with how we don't want to saturate job sites with these things. And so I think we'll know a little bit more. And I think that they'll be able to answer those questions, I think, a little bit further in the future.
Okay. Do you know how much they cost, each one of these?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, I do. I did. They originally were about $495 for this guy, the black device here, and $895 for the white device here. They have different levels of sophistication. One has a SIM card and is AI voice. You can record that. And then the other one is you just speak into it and record it. So different levels of sophistication. But that price has changed. I've already heard from around the valley, just different agencies that have procured some of these, and tariffs have affected them. So the price on these are going to go up a little bit.
Okay. So prices are going to go up. That's interesting. How widely tested and used have these things been around the country?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, I know of one municipality that has put these out in play, and that is out in Indiana with their Department of Transportation. I've communicated with them. They used it in a test situation of a downtown intersection. They have their opinions on which ones work better and all of that. So I will continue to reach out to them to find out more, but there's not a lot of people out there that are meeting this requirement currently, which is why we're excited about having a draft rollout plan and getting this right and tuned in.
Well, okay, so that interests me because if ProRag requires it, and yet there's only one other municipality that you can find that's actually started using these, that, I don't know, that kind of raises a question mark. Why do you suppose that is? Because I'm hesitant to jump into doing something that almost no one else has done before, because there are always all sorts of things to find out. And gosh, I would prefer not to be the one to find them out, but rather to take advantage of somebody else's learning curve.
Yeah, Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, thanks for that comment. I think it's well received. It's why we're, taking a step-by-step approach to this. ProWag, nationally has been part of the conversation when it comes to ADA requirements for many, many years in the draft form. It was recently, the draft was essentially finalized and concluded. And so it is, but status wise, it probably hasn't been formally adopted by the DOJ yet, or has it?
Not by DOJ.
Not by
DOT.
DOJ, but DOT, yes, DOJ, no. This is federal, federal stuff. But all that being said, the commission, the ACHD commission, through actions related to the adoption of the ADA transition plan, essentially adopted PROAG standards for ACHD as a proactive move towards towards that law. So that is why we are now moving forward towards compliance in this area. In areas where it's unclear, we're taking this cautious approach. The two you see right there are the only two that we've procured, and I think we got them for free.
We got
There you go. We got test items. So when it comes to the procurement of these devices, when it comes to the rollout, we are being cautious. I think we're in a leadership role. There's no doubt about that. But as we learn more, and if there are concerns from staff about the viability of the program, we'll bring that back to you for discussions. If, for example, if it has a major budgetary impact, we would not move forward on something like that without talking to the commission first.
Okay. Can I ask just one more question? This is a technical question. Do these things have difficulty with being triggered by dogs and cats or blowing debris or things like that? What's their basis for triggering?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, one of them detects with a cone. I think it's LiDAR, but it's detecting in a cone about 14 feet across. It'll detect people in wheelchairs. It'll detect seeing eye dogs. It will be set off by things like that. This other device, the black device, will actually pick up a whole lot more. It has more of a bubble on the front of it, has a larger cone, so it is detecting more things in vehicles. That actually seemed to be something that was advantageous coming from the blind and low vision community. They liked that it was more easily detectable. So it can be detected by other things. There's reasons why other people don't like those, and that is one of them, is it can be detected by more things with a larger bubble, as opposed to the one with the cone.
Right. I wonder about a situation where one of these is set in place on a sidewalk and it's getting tripped every 30 seconds and the neighbors who live there have to listen to that, all night long, for example, if it's dogs and cats and squirrels and things like that that are tripping it. Anyway, just a kind of a technical issue to wonder about.
Commissioner
you.
Goldthorpe?
Yes, a question real quick. Because of the fact that we as a commission have adopted PROAG, I assume that means all of our contractors who bid on our jobs have also adopted PROAG because they're going to be complying with what we have adopted, correct?
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, I want to make sure I'm answering that question correctly, but the answer should be yes.
Yeah,
The
we've got
reason why I
Justin
asked
I didn't want it to
over
be a
there.
trick question, sorry.
No, it's not a trick question. The reason why I asked that is because if they are doing our work and setting up the perimeters and everything for the ADA requirements, it would seem to me that they're going to be the ones responsible for purchasing the vast majority of these.
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, yes, that is true. On our capital projects, back to Commissioner McKinney's question, we will not be purchasing these. The traffic control companies will be purchasing these. And
That's what I was hoping you'd say.
yes, and what I will say is we design our projects to meet PROAG.
Yep.
And that's what the contractors build, so.
Thank you.
Any
I
other-
just solved the financial question.
There you go.
Sorry, I knew that answer. I just want to make sure it was answered appropriately.
Well, thank you, Sean. Really appreciate the presentation and all the work that you and the team and everyone involved have done in developing it to this point, and look forward to updates on the rollout and how it's all going. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, with that, we'll be at ease for 6 minutes until 6 o'clock.
recent memory. Like, oh, no, I could tell it or Osama bin Laden, like that's it, will be the same.
All right, good evening, everyone. It's now 6 o'clock and I'll call the meeting to order. Thanks for joining us in person and online, and please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item is to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion?
Yes, so moved.
Second?
We've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a commissioner or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. All consent agenda items are commission action items unless noted. If we don't have any request to remove anything, can I get
Madam
a-
President,
Commissioner McKinney.
I request that we move item number 4 from the consent agenda to the regular agenda, and I would move that we approve the remainder of the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We will do item number 4 from the consent agenda first, findings of fact, Spring Valley Nova subdivision number 1, request for approval. Commissioner McKinney.
Yes, Madam President, this item is, of course, a follow-on from what we discussed at our last meeting about the Valnova request for a modification of conditions. In order to modify conditions, and this was explained very clearly by our general counsel last time, that we have to make specific findings of fact in order to justify that. And the trouble here is that the findings of fact that are presented are not factual statements at all. They're all conclusions. The request will not be injurious to adjacent properties. That's not a fact. That's a conclusion. The request will not be detrimental to public health, safety, and welfare. That's a conclusion. If you look through all of them, they're essentially like that. And so I don't know that I could go along with this and vote for a modification when we don't have actual findings of fact. We just have conclusory statements that are just a repetition of the conditions for making a modification. So I can't find any way that I could approve it without actual discussion of the facts involved here, as opposed to just saying, oh yeah, everything's okay, nothing to see here, move on. We need to be a little more rigorous than that.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions or a motion?
Madam President,
Commissioner Pickering.
I move that we approve the findings of fact, Spring Valley Valnova subdivision number 1 as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Madam President, can I ask a question?
Commissioner McKinney.
In these findings of fact, aside from the statement that the fire districts have given their conclusions, their letters of support, is there one factual statement that can be pointed out here that is actually a fact that justifies granting the modification?
I don't have them in front of me at this moment, so.
We do have a lawyer here.
Yeah, does our,
Or
or Justin
Justin.
or our legal counsel might want to weigh in on this.
Madam President, members of the commission, appreciate the discussion. ACHD staff prepared these findings based on the motion and the discussion from last time. Staff is satisfied with the findings as presented by the commission. We are presenting them to you now for approval. So when it comes to the language that's required, it's staff's belief that this language meets the code and the policies of ACHD as presented and discussed by the commission.
Madam President.
Commissioner Pickering.
Yeah, I think, I appreciate that, Justin, and my understanding is right, the city presented the facts around why they needed this waiver, this appeal, and we discussed it as a commission. There was a majority of folks that agreed with the facts that the city presented, which is why there was a motion and a majority support for their appeal. So I think this idea that somehow the facts are not facts is incorrect, because we talked about it at length last week. So that's why I'm supporting the motion and happy to pass that.
Look.
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Yes, it won't surprise anybody because of my 2 negative votes last week. I feel compelled to continue that this week.
All right.
Yeah, I agree with the point that Commissioner Pickering made about the discussion and the motion and all of that last week, and that these are the findings of fact and conclusions of law that are part of that, procedure. So I'll be supporting the motion. I also think it's within the commission's purview to make that decision and waive a policy. So is there any other, Commissioner Nelson?
Yeah, I've written hundreds of findings of fact. Well, I may typically preface the statement that there's no evidence in the record that this is injurious. I'm satisfied the staff, the legal counsel finds these defensible, which is the main point of doing findings of fact. So I'm supporting the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Motion carries. All right, we will move to it'll be item number 2 on the regular agenda now, which is the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act proclamation. This is a request for approval. I'm going to go ahead and read this proclamation. Celebrating the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act and reaffirming ACHD's commitment to an accessible transportation system for all. Whereas July 26, 2025 marks the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, a historic civil rights law that guarantees people with disabilities the right to access, inclusion, and equal opportunity in all aspects of public life, including transportation. And whereas the Ada County Highway District, ACHD, recognizes that mobility is freedom and that a safe, connected, and accessible transportation system is essential to the dignity, independence, and full participation of people of all abilities in our community. And whereas ACHD is committed to build together, build safe, and build more for all of our residents and visitors, a commitment to collaboration with our community, safety for all who drive, walk, and roll, and meaningful investments that expand and improve our transportation network for all. And whereas ACHD is actively implementing its ADA transition plan, continuously evaluating current practices, and constantly striving for more, through the installation of accessible infrastructure and tools such as accessible pedestrian signals, detectable warning surfaces, updated curb ramps, improved crosswalks, and more, we can ensure that the transportation network throughout Ada County is inclusive and equitable. And whereas ACHD staff work across departments to incorporate accessibility into every stage of project planning, design, and construction, and we continue to engage with the disability community to ensure their needs and lived experiences inform our work. And whereas we recognize that accessibility is not a one-time achievement, but an ongoing responsibility, and that by building a more accessible system, we build a better system for everyone. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ada County Highway District commemorates the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act with deep appreciation for the progress made and with renewed dedication to build together, build safe, and build more in an effort to connect all users, regardless of ability, to more. Okay. Is there a motion to adopt?
Yes,
Commissioner
Madam
Goldberg?
President,
Yeah.
I would move that we adopt the ADA proclamation.
Is there,
I'll second.
we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, what was item 2? Now number 3 on the regular agenda, the authorization order of condemnation for Youth Stick and 10 Mile. We've got a request from our staff to remand that back indefinitely. Is there a motion?
Madam President,
Commissioner Pickering.
I move to remand item number 3, authorization order of condemnation, Ustick Road, 10 Mile Road, and Linder Road, ACC project number 521052.001 parcel 24, back to staff indefinitely.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that moves us to discussion items, public communications. Is there anybody in person or online who wish to address the commission? Okay, seeing none, the meeting is adjourned. Next up is the post-commission agenda. We've got a work session, impact fee capital improvement plan update, service area update presentation by staff. This is a commission discussion and possible decision. Justin.
Well, commissioners, this really is a continuation of the work session from July 9th. Good, robust discussion at that work session. A lot of questions. We did our best as staff in partnership with our consultants on this project to provide as many answers as we could. I did want to call out that there were a few follow-up items that we included in the packet. There was the pedestrian gap maps on the arterial system that were included in the packet. The impact fee schedule from 2012 and the current impact fee schedule was included in the packet. I'll just highlight the question related to those was the percentage increase between kind of since 2012. We did the rough calculation on that. It's approximately 14.6% increase from 2012 to 2022, the last time we updated our impact fee schedule. In looking at the costs, it's about 150% increase. And so that was the discussion at the work session that we wanted to close the loop on. So I wanted to provide that to the commission. Really, the final discussion point that we're seeking direction on today is related to how we are going to move forward and develop the draft plan. The key questions seem to be related to service areas, if I was paying attention last time. And staff is really here just seeking commission direction. At this point in the process, the commission is not making a final decision on the service area question. We're essentially just need some direction on how to move forward with the development of the draft. The draft would then be carried out for public involvement. That involvement would include, obviously, the general public, members of the development community, and other interested parties like the cities and county. They would be able to review all of the information, essentially, that we've showed you over the last over a year on this project, and then we would bring back all of that information, including all of the details associated with how this would work moving forward in a two-service area situation. If the commission was unsatisfied or for some reason decided that you wanted to pivot and go in a different direction on service areas, we could, through that process of communication and feedback, we could revise the plan, come back with a different scenario, whatever that may be, and the commission could then move forward at that point as part of the final drafting and adoption of the CIP. So that's kind of where we are in the process. I just wanted to provide this opportunity today to answer any further questions you may have. I don't necessarily think this takes a motion today. If the president sees that there's a majority, we're glad to take it that way. If there's confusion, a motion helps staff in these situations. Once again, the motion is not a final decision on service areas. It's just a motion providing direction to staff in case there's a lack of clarity.
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Yes, thank you. Justin, well, it's pretty common knowledge that I'm in favor of a single service area. I think it's only fair that when we take it out to the public and to the development community, that they see much of what we have seen in the last year and a half. Can you do that without us giving you a specific direction?
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, we have kept the development community and our partners up to speed throughout the process. The presentations that you've received over the past, I'd say, 12 months, after we come to the CICAC, which is your advisory group that provides input on this, and then we bring it to you. We've also taken it to the Commercial Developers Advisory Group and showed them the same PowerPoints and presentations. So on that front, I feel like they're pretty well up to speed. The thing about the draft, the process of developing a draft requires a draft that has a certain level of clarity when it comes to the structure of the plan. And if the commission is looking for some kind of interim feedback on what service area scenario you're looking to move forward with, staff feels like we've provided that. You have the CICAC recommendation. Other than that, you're unlikely to get any type of formal letters or anything like that from the cities or the development community until they kind of see it in a more draft form.
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Yeah, follow up. I'm not so worried about the CICAC or the commercial developer group because, they have, I know exactly what they've been briefed on and they know as much as we do. It's the public that I'm concerned about, and I don't know that they'll weigh in for anything. But they are the ones with the biggest mouths about development not paying for itself and that sort of thing. And I think we need to holler it from the treetops so that they have every chance to weigh in, either that or to forever hold their peace.
And Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, I think that is the point of the next step in the process. It's to
Okay.
go out, holler it from the treetops, let everyone weigh in. As you're aware, the draft plan, unless there's other direction today, includes a pretty significant increase in the development impact fees as proposed through this process. So I imagine that's going to get some attention. And we'll then take that feedback and work with you on processing all of that as we go forward. The majority of these fees, although there's different ways to look at this, who's paying the fee. The direct payer of the fee is usually the business entity that is pulling the permit for the actual construction project, because that's when the fee is actually paid. Now, there's arguments about, well, that's then passed through to the general public when they purchase a home or this or that or the other. But when it comes to the general public's engagement on these types of plans and policies, it's been limited because it's just a limited understanding. And I think what the type of feedback you'll receive will most likely be from the general public, some from our community partners that have opinions on this, and some from the development community.
Madam President.
Commissioner Pickering.
Justin, I do have a one question. So obviously we know impact fees cover intersections, the cost of intersections, right? But we know with Micron's expansion, the second chip, the second fab site, like it's actually I don't think folks actually realize how big things are going to be over in Micron. And there's been some talk about, the Lake Hazel Road extension. So could you just share what aspects of that road, the building of that road would be impact fee eligible? Would it just be intersections or other parts as well?
So in the draft CIP list of projects that we discussed at the last work session, the road associated most near the Micron project, which is an extension of Technology Way, that entire road, since it's a new alignment, is included as impact fee eligible.
Okay.
Lake Hazel extension, same thing. That's included all the way through construction as impact fee eligible, based on the percentages and everything. I don't know if it's exactly, I'm looking over towards Edmondson. I don't know if it's exactly 100%, but a very high percentage of it. Is it 100% or?
Do you know how long that extension is?
Oh, yeah, I can give you a rough estimate. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like 6 miles.
And that likely would be 3 lanes or 5 lanes?
Well, there's different ways that could be.
Well, let's go on the low end if it's 3.
Yeah, on the low end, if it's 3, are you asking for a cost?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, we'd have to look and see what the cost estimates are associated with that. It's probably broken up. Okay, so that's the eligibility. Do you have a total project cost, Edison, on?
Very bulk.
It's multiple segments.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, 6 miles at. You have to wait. Lake Hazel, so I'm looking at. Total project cost, ballpark, Pleasant Valley. Over $100 million.
Thank you. So thanks, Justin, because I think, based off of our work session a few weeks back, I think there was some comments made about from some commissioners, with their not being supportive of a two service area zone idea because they wanted Boise to continue to subsidize some of the growth that's happening on the western part of the county. And I just asked those questions because clearly that's not going to be the case when we have to build that road. And that's going to pull all the impact fees from all the other cities to pay for that roadway. Cause there's obviously talks about, who knows, there could be some magical bucket of $50 million that somehow comes through. Who knows, right? But just want to get the facts out about the eligibility of that roadway and the actual numbers, but thought that was interesting. And to Commissioner Goldthorpe's point, I think we've had the single service area model for a while now. How long has it been?
Since 2012.
Okay, so 13 years. We've got an example of what works well with the conditions that have existed over those 13 years. And I think to your point about going out to the public, I've heard, right, from city leaders, all different types of folks, that there's an interest and desire to go to a two service fee model. I think, again, we're not making a decision today, but a way to test, ground truth that is to actually say, okay, let's actually put that to the test. What do you guys think? Now that it's public, we're expecting you to comment and we actually get that on the record rather than kind of this he say, she say type things that we've been hearing. There hasn't been, to your point, an opportunity for them to make their support or non-support official. So I think, obviously, you guys probably know where I'm going to be leaning towards, but I think that's why I'm looking forward to this process so we can actually see if that runs true.
Commissioner McKinney?
Yeah, Madam President, just a couple of questions, Justin, on this. Do we have some kind of an estimate of what the costs are? Because we've done this in the past, though it was a little different configuration with multiple service areas. And we have some track record that we can look back at to, what it cost to administer, what were the additional administrative costs and hurdles and so on with having that. So based on that, do we have some idea now of the same types of costs that we would incur if we went back to a multiple service area model?
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, at this point in the process, we haven't calculated that type of estimate. What I can say is, what staff needs is just clarity in how the fees are collected. With two service areas, you just walk through the process. A permit comes in, we geographically locate where the permit is, where it's associated, and we essentially charge the fee based on the table associated with that service area. So that level of complexity is not very high. Where the complexity can happen is in a situation where the commission wants to do a project within a service area where the funding from the impact fee program may not be sufficient. And it is legal for the commission to borrow money from one service area and lend it to another service area. And that's where the tracking, I think, becomes more complex. You can imagine when Christine comes forward and she's providing the impact fee calculations, there's just an accounting mechanism that has to be put in place to track those loans between service areas if those do occur and the commission wants to do that, and that's a commission action. That's where the complexity gets harder. With two service areas, it's one to the other or vice versa. With 4 or 6 service areas, you can imagine that would be pretty complex depending on which service. Are you taking money from these 3 and giving it to this one? And I think that's a level of complexity that was probably more difficult under the multiple service area model. I'm not trying to dance around your question. I'm just trying to illustrate that at this level, looking at it where we are today, I don't believe that the administrative cost alone is going to be a large enough variable for this level of policy decision to sway the commission one way or the other. That's kind of a judgment call on my part. Depending on how you look at it as a commissioner, you may disagree with that. But, if I had to put, do we need to go out and hire, let's say, another full-time staff member? That's where this comes to play, to administer a 2-service area program. No, I don't think we would rush out and hire that staff member immediately. Through the administration over time, as we look into it and we get into it more, and if there's a lot of loans going between the service areas, could we get to a place where we needed to do that? It's hard to predict. But will we take more phone calls about service areas? Will we take more questions from developers about the service areas if we go from 1 to 2? Yes. I think those things are hard to quantify and put a number on when it comes to staff time associated with managing the 2 service areas. It will be more. Will it be so large that it shifts us into a place where we need to hire additional staff to administer the program? I don't think so. I don't think so. That's kind of my answer today, if that helps.
Right. If I may, let me just add one comment. I think in response to what Commissioner Pickering said, I think the Lake Hazel extension is a shining example of why multiple service areas doesn't make sense, because the Lake Hazel extension would all be entirely in the eastern proposed service area. And according to the information that's been provided by staff, the time required for the east service area to accumulate $40 million in impact fees, and of course this is like a $100 million project, would be like 9 years, whereas the cost to accumulate that level of impact fees in the west service area under that proposal is something like 2. And the nice thing is that with one service area, the reality is you don't have to worry about that. The money is there. It's available for use anywhere in the county, and you don't have to send these loans from one service area account to another and deal with any of that at all. You simply, here are the impact fees. Here's the project we can use them on. And when we combine it with other funds and get to the point, for example, and this is, I know it's hypothetical, but it's simply, it works on its own. It's like a roundabout. It's like, it's low tech. It operates on its own as opposed to a complicated system that you have to constantly be manipulating and working on because of the inherent complexities that it imposes. And that's why I think multiple service areas isn't a practical or a wise direction.
Madam President,
Commissioner Nielsen first and then Commissioner.
I just want to respond to Commissioner McKinney's points, if that's okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
No, Commissioner McKinney, I appreciate that point. And I agree with you. Like that, the time to accumulate those funds would take longer. But what I'm hearing from the city of Meridian and other places is they don't want the impact fees generated in their communities to go to projects like the Lake Hazel Road extension. And under a single service area, that's what would happen. And so I think that presents a really good opportunity for why we need to go public with this model and this idea, because it can flesh out which side of the road do folks actually want to stand on? Because I think in practice, that would totally make sense. But I don't think that's actually like reality based off of the conversations that I've been having. So which is why we need to make it more public and actually ask the question.
Commissioner Nielsen.
I have lots of thoughts. So there's been a lot of information provided, and I really appreciate the work of staff and the consultant team. Way more than over a year and a half, 2 years now, right? So there's a lot that I've assimilated to settle down on my preference for a 2-service area. Initially, and I kind of chuckle at this, good thing we're not Reno or Austin with the information on the number of service areas those cities have by statutory requirement. 2 to me is because the East has so many fewer projects, I don't think it's going to be that large of an administrative burden as if they each had dozens, an equivalent amount of projects. And that got me to look at the current CIP. And I looked at the first 2-year intervals, 5-year intervals, so 10 years. And there's only 1.5 in the East. And that's, and even then Orchard Street realignment, the city is studying. We've gotten feedback on that, and I'll take half of Cole, so maybe half a project. So I think we need to have a better representation, not a total shutout from one part of the eastern part of the county, where most of my district is. Maybe we could get it to Maple Grove, but so that's a factor to me. And I also looked, there was information provided, I think as Commissioner McKinney referenced, on the amount generated. Plus with the restriction, we have 8 years to spend it. With the, I think 13 intersections, I think that was within a 20-year CIP. That is not an issue in terms of what would be impact generated. And then I think in terms of the lane miles that could be funded, that looks possible. I would probably need some help quantifying how many lane miles of projects in the East in the CIP. I could probably get there, but looking at Edison, that's probably an easy GIS fix, but that seemed within the realm of possibility that the East could stand on its own. Yes, Lake Hazel's a big project, but what we have Lake Hazel now is in the West. We're working, it looks like, west to east. So that would be in later years of the CIP. And I think we'll know more 4 years from now where that stands. So I'm not really concerned that, oh my gosh, we got to find 100 million for Lake Hazel, really soon. That's gonna be a long term. There may be opportunities for right-of-way preservation. Not sure how much development will happen there. I know that area very well. Know what the restrictions are and what the opportunities are. That might be an opportunity for an official map, if anyone still does those anymore. But and I think the other, my other thoughts are on pedestrian bicycle infrastructure, and I'll just address that because I thank you for putting those maps in the packet. I look them over, and I would like to challenge my fellow commissioners to really look at the limited number of gaps on the arterial system. We've done a great job getting developers to build them, but I'd like staff to look at, I think because I always cringe when I hear it because that's the way we've always done it. I think there's a different way to do it that is a common way to get these improvements. We were presented it as kind of an either or, but it's actually a both if you read state law. And I would like staff to look at that, is that you can require them to build it, but then also give them a credit. So if you look at the impact fee law, that's a practice probably more in parks and recreation and maybe some other things subject to impact fees. But I would encourage you to look that I don't think it's a one or the other. You can do both. And it's pretty clear in state law that you can require it to be built. And then if it's part of your CIP, then give them a credit on impact fees. So I just want to, relate my thoughts on that is that with the information provided, I think we need to include ped bike in the impact fee because the gaps are not going to happen through redevelopment if you look at those. So I would just encourage people to really look at that map. Where I did see gaps, they were like older subdivisions in Southwest. That's not in my lifetime, even though that's getting shorter. That's not going to happen in my lifetime, redevelopment of those areas. So I don't think we can expect what has worked well in the past to continue in the future. We've just seen too much development along the arterials, and we've done a really good job. I might need to maybe get appreciate the scale of the maps, you know, to actually kind of pick up on those areas. But I was actually surprised about how few gaps I saw. Now, there are some in Southwest, but again, I think if you look at the ability to require it and then do a credit, I'd be curious on the, I just want to say, I want to think through some of those financial considerations. I do know it added a little bit more to the impact fee, not as much as the road pavement reconstruction. And I'm looking at that as I think that might be worth it, because I just don't think we're going to fund those gaps like we used to. And that might take some burden off the community program funding. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. I'll be happy to make a motion that we direct staff to focus on a 2-service area capital improvement plan or impact fee service areas. And with that, also would like more, maybe if we could dial in more of the number of projects in each one, and then the potential revenue. Again, this is, and I think the revenue assumptions right now are still based on the current impact fee. I don't know that that would be an updated analysis, I would presume, by the consultant, if with that direction as well. There's a lot of moving parts here, I understand. So, but it might be time to then start looking at the range of impact fee and what then that each service area may generate. But then I also, and I'm not certain, do we have a list that goes with the refined project list? I might follow up after the meeting with staff. I just want to make sure I have the latest and greatest, is to really then look at what is the non-impact fee eligible by service area as well. Look at both parts of it and just see how that stands. I think that would be beneficial to that understanding of whether we really are going to see a bunch of loans back and forth. I'm not convinced that's the case. So I just want to be more convinced. So with that, I'll make that motion.
Madam President.
Clarify.
Yeah, can you just
Uh,
clarify?
I just want to
assumption?
say
I'll
with great
send your-
direction to focus
Keep the
on
draft with 2 service
with 2
areas.
service areas with the resulting financial analysis and list of projects.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes,
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
I'd appreciate, because as you know, it takes 4 to make this change. And right now you got 3. So I would appreciate you broadcasting to any and all who are interested in either one of these, 1 zone or 2 zones, that they know that that's where the tipping point has to occur, so that they can have every opportunity to make an honest attempt to convince 4. I hate it like crazy when people say, I didn't know about this, you know, and everything else that goes along with that. And this is important. It's an ordinance. And as you know, if it were voted on tonight, it wouldn't pass.
Commissioner Goldthorpe, just for clarification, we're directing staff to prepare a draft
I know,
with 2 service areas to go get public feedback
I know.
and partner feedback. And we can make a decision or, you know, change direction or whatever based on the outcome of that. So this is not a final decision on the CIP.
I didn't say it was.
And just, it doesn't take 3 or 4 tonight.
I know it
Response to
doesn't.
motion.
And I just
Okay.
said, this is what I said.
Is there any other discussion?
Madam President,
Commissioner
quick
Pickering?
question. Justin, how long is it going to be like out to the public? Can you talk a little bit more about the process?
So I don't have dates up here, and I may have to get with Edinson. If we could give just a general timeline, Edinson, on preparing the draft and when we would then take it out to the public. Go ahead.
Good Commission. President Gold, Commissioner Pickering, our current timeline established that from during the month of August and September, we'll be preparing the draft. Well, in the month of August, we'll start preparing the draft impact fee schedule. Currently, we're planning to bring it back to the commission to has an initial draft, and later starting working on preparing the updated impact fee ordinance and capital improvement plan document, which by late September, we'll have it ready for public review. And following the regulations on the statute, our goal is to release it 2 weeks prior to the public hearing or adoption. And it is something that we're currently planning for, but we're more than happy to adjust timelines to accommodate another public outreach if needed.
Yeah, Madam President, I think with other ordinances, we've done at least 30 days, 30 to 60 days even. So I know that that could goof up our timeline to target adoption, but I don't think 2 weeks is enough.
We can modify that
Yeah.
based on commission direction. So it looks like September, we'll have the draft essentially ready. We'll be bringing that back to you prior to going out for public involvement. At that time, if the commission wants to provide additional direction related to the timeframe and the outreach process, we're glad to take it. So there's multiple steps. There's the final draft, then there's this, it'll be ready in September and it'll start hitting the streets in at that time, and then we'll work through
Okay.
the final adoption phase.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Nielsen.
I was just gonna say, if you guys, I'm looking at page 68 of 85 in our packet, if we could get more more specificity in the schedule or next steps, like when are we gonna have the hearing and work back from that?
Mhm.
But it's just now, it just says fall and I don't know, the end point seems vague, but.
Yeah, Madam President, members of the commission, the timeline, the goal has been by the end of the year. That's been the
Okay.
goal. The current CIP does not expire at the end of this year, so there is some flexibility there. So we can kind of build it back with a robust public outreach process in the very end, and then work it back from there to those specifics. We'll bring back, when we bring back the draft, we'll bring back specific dates for each of the subsequent steps at that
Okay.
point.
Thank you.
So, Madam President,
Commissioner
there's
Pickering.
still a motion on the floor and I'm done with my questions. So I don't know if you want to call the roll or see if there's more questions.
Yeah,
Sorry.
if there's no other comments, I'll just say I'll support the motion. I think that I have also heard feedback, having recently met with all the mayors, interest in seeing more of the impact fees kept in that, that area where they're collected. And so I think it's a really important step to take that out for that feedback and give people a sense of what that looks like and collect that feedback for the commission. And so I'm in favor of doing that as part of this process, and I'll be supporting the motion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries. And with that, we are done. We don't have a meeting next week, so we'll see y'all back here in 2 weeks.
Meeting next. That's one of those fifth